Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Midweek Rewind. If you haven't noticed, we are not in Brent's office today. We're switching things up just a little bit and doing something a little bit different. So I've got some special guests I'm excited to introduce you to. But before we get into that, I wanted to give you a quick update. Obviously, Pastor Brent is not with us today. He is actually in Wichita, but he just got back from Burundi, Africa, just a couple of days ago. And he is actually headed to Canada in a couple of days for our missions board meetings. So he's got a crazy schedule getting ready for those. So we've got something a little bit different planned for today. And if you joined us on Sunday, or if you're able to watch online, you know that Sunday was our Community Impact Sunday, where we had several guests come from local ministries and organizations we work with, sharing ways that we can get involved in Wichita, hopefully make an impact in our community. Had some great stories that we shared from several of those ministries and organizations. And we briefly mentioned, but didn't get too far into talking about Family Promise. And today we're going to go a little bit deeper talking about Family Promise. And that's who my guests are with me today. So we've got Stacia and Don with us today. So Stacia is the Executive Director of Family Promise of Greater Wichita. And Don is the Case Manager Extraordinaire with Family Promise. So we're grateful that they're with us today. And so I thought today would be a great chance, since we don't really have a sermon to talk about, to talk more about some of this community impact stuff, specifically about homelessness in Wichita, and some things maybe that you may not know just about how that issue affects our community, and then some ways that you might be able to get involved. So I've been talking too long, so Stacia, why don't we start with you? Tell us about Family Promise and what your role with them is here in Wichita.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I'm the Executive Director there, which means I just kind of oversee everything, the volunteer management, the staff, program functioning, our interactions with the churches and other agencies that we partner with, and just try to keep that ball rolling and everything running smoothly. And Family Promise is a nationwide organization. For those of you that don't know, it was started back in the 80s, and we are one of the affiliates here locally. And so what it is it's just a really neat opportunity to partner with churches and congregations in our area to combat family homelessness. And so we have a day house, which is sort of our main hub of operations, where we have case managers and laundry facilities and everything that the families need for just day-to-day functioning. But then we utilize church buildings with other congregations and partners in the area, and they actually provide the shelter and the meals and the friendly support and hospitality that our families need while they're getting back on their feet. So that eliminates the need for us to run like a large residential facility, because we're just tapping into these huge, beautiful church buildings that already exist for the shelter piece.
Awesome.
As the case manager, my daily duties is to just work one-on-one with the families. I roll up my sleeves and just kind of get into the nitty-gritty of their lives. And so whatever barriers they have, we try to eliminate those. And we're always working towards sustainable independence for them when they leave the program, so that when they leave us and graduate as a successful graduate, we don't want them to be in that situation again. Yeah. So case management can entail a lot of different things.
Cool, that's great. So for a lot of us in Wichita, a lot of our church, I mean, honestly, we live in this zip code where things are pretty comfortable, honestly. We maybe don't come face to face with homelessness on a daily basis. So can you tell us more about, like, how is this a big problem in Wichita? And what else maybe do we not even recognize in our little bubble that we live in, the homelessness issue in our community?
Yeah, so the problem is really big. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is that family homelessness, adults that have children, they make up almost half of our homeless population. And so I think the tendency is to think that it's single white males that are the ones that are struggling with this, and that's just not the truth. In the Wichita area, Wichita Public Schools, USD 259, they served about 2,500 kiddos last year that did not have a permanent address. Wow. Keep in mind, though, that doesn't include all of the little communities that surround us: Hayesville, Park City, Goddard, Mays, El Dorado, Augusta, because a lot of those places don't have shelter services of their own. They're coming to Wichita, and so that number is much, much higher. The way that Wichita has chosen to count our homeless population is using the point in time count. And so what that means is one day every year, we did it on January 30th of this year, we count the homeless population. It's a very flawed system, and the definition of who they count is very narrow. It means only they count the folks that are actually in a shelter at that time, or those that are unsheltered, so meaning they're living under a bridge or they're in a car.
Okay.
But it doesn't capture all of the folks that are struggling staying in a motel, or maybe they're couch surfing or doubled up with other people. So those numbers are pretty flawed, but the number this year was 593 people on any given night.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is a huge problem.
It is a huge problem. It really is. And I think, especially with family homelessness, our families are the ones that they're trying to fly below the radar. And they want everybody to think that they're just like everybody
They're
else.
normal people,
They
yeah.
are. And there's also a lot of fear there surrounding what will happen if people find out that we're struggling. Many parents are hesitant to reach out for help to the school social worker or to a shelter because they're afraid that their children are going to get taken. And so that is why at Family Promise, we recognize and support these families and tell them and reassure them that our ultimate goal is to keep you together. We want you as a family unit to stay intact and to get to a better spot. And we want to walk alongside you while you try and get there.
Yeah. I know that's one thing that makes you kind of unique, right? Because there are men's shelters and women's shelters, but you kind of focus on families, especially with kids in the picture. Is that right?
That's right. So we serve homeless children and their families. And so we serve whoever is family in the eyes of the child, which is kind of unique to us.
Okay.
Because that can look like a single mom or a single dad. Sometimes it's a two-parent family. But if that family unit is maternal grandmother, aunt, second cousin, and brother, that's who we're going to bring in. Because we know to that kiddo, that's their family, and it's important to keep them.
Yeah.
We also will take in the family pet. We have a pet fostering program.
Oh, really?
And
cool.
so at other shelters here in town, many times your first stop, if you decide to make that hard decision to come into shelter, is to go to the Humane Society and drop off your pet. And so for kiddos, that's just another level of trauma, having to give up your dog before you have a place to sleep.
Right.
And so we recognize that. And so when we invite families into the program, we say, bring your furry friend too.
That's cool.
And we will put them into a pet fostering program with some wonderful volunteers that we have through Family Promise. And we provide everything that family needs, but also the pet, vet care, food, kennels, toys. And then when the family moves into housing, we reunite the pet with them too.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. I'm sure that is a unique element that people forget about. That's part of the family for a lot of these people. So.
It really is.
We have a dog and 2 cats in program right now.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
So let's say there is a homeless family in Wichita, how do they find you? How do you find them? How do you make those connections?
Well, we're fairly new in Wichita, but our name is out there now. And so we do get, most of our calls are direct calls. So we get referrals from the other shelters in town because they are always full. So they will refer to us. School social workers will call. St. Francis Family Preservation refers us a lot. And a lot of people are finding out through churches because we have so many churches that support our organization. And so when churches come across someone who's homeless, they have somewhere to tell them to call. So we do get a lot of direct calls that way too.
Awesome. And again, I don't really know the process, but you work with families. So you probably have some kind of partnership with, if it's a single adult or whatever. So how do you take everyone, or how do you decide which families you're going to really invest in? How does that work?
Yeah, that is sometimes the difficult piece. We get 3, 4, 5 calls a day from families looking for shelter that we can't always serve because our capacity is limited. St. Anthony Family Shelter, the other shelter in town that we work closely with and serves, just families too. They estimate that they turn away 30 to 40 calls a month. So the need is huge, and it's always heartbreaking when we get these calls and we don't have the room to take them in. But we do a pretty extensive vetting process for our families, and we're not an emergency shelter, which I think is important for folks to understand. We do a phone screen with families. We do an in-person interview. There's a background check that they need to pass and some other just kind of hoops that they have to jump through to make sure that they're a good fit. Because we also have to keep in mind the safety of the volunteers that they're with during the evenings, and then also the other kiddos and families that are in program. So families would call us. We would do a brief in-person interview if they're a good fit and they're interested in what we have to offer, because it is a really intensive, difficult program. It's not just a place to lay your head for 30 days. We are all up in your business, and that's what Dawn is so good at. And we would invite them then to come in for an in-person interview. And if we feel like it's a good fit and we have an opening, then we would invite them to join us.
Okay.
If we don't have space, which is the case right now and most of the time, we would then put them on our waiting list. And when another family graduates, then we would go down that list and call folks to see if they still need shelter. And if so, then we can talk about bringing them in.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So again, I think most people watching have probably a general gist of how this works, but maybe they don't. So the churches are on a rotating system. They stay overnight in the churches, but there's a lot that goes into that. So how many churches are involved, and can you explain, they stay at the churches, but then they go somewhere else? Why don't you walk us through what like a week looks like for these families?
Sure. So each week they stay at a church for a week at a time. So on Sunday night, they go to the new host congregation for the week. And then when they come back to the day house, which they do this daily, that's where it gets really hectic at the day house because everyone's getting ready for school or work or just kind of like your own house times 6. So the mornings are hectic. They're getting ready. They're going off to what they need to do. They also are required to meet with their case manager twice a week. So we hold them accountable to lots of different things, the goals that they've set when they come into program. A lot of times families are visiting agencies. Those in poverty spend a lot of time dealing with agencies. So maybe going to the Salvation Army, maybe going to DCF to get benefits. So there's a lot of that, just doing errands and that sort of thing. And then in the evening, the kids get home from school and it gets crazy again. And everyone's, doing chores, and it's just like your home. But we just have a lot more kids there. So
so in answer to your question too, we are partnered right now with, I think it's 46 or 47 churches.
Wow.
All different sizes, all different denominations, supporting us in some way. Not all of them host families within their walls, but some serve as support congregations to churches that do. Some are partnering with us in other ways. And what we recognized last year was that this need was so great that we decided to expand our program. And so now every night there's 2 churches hosting. There's 2 vans driving back and forth, 3 families staying in each church.
Okay.
And our goal is we're in the process of renovating a bigger day house space.
Okay.
So we can make this a full double in our capacity. We'll go from 6 families currently that we can serve at a time to 8 families. And so 4 will be staying in each congregation each night.
Awesome.
And we're super excited about that. Hopefully that will happen within the next couple of months.
Okay, well, that's great. So it is a big commitment for these families, because I know a lot of the churches have programs during the week, or some of them do, so they have to get up pretty early.
5:30, sometimes earlier.
In order to get to the day house. And I know the goal, like you said, is to help them graduate from the program, become sustainable. So do you do some kind of like career training, or how do you get them to the point where they're able to graduate and kind of be more sustainable?
Well, every family that comes in, the first step is to set a case plan and kind of go over what are your goals. Everyone, of course, we're going to be looking for full-time employment, affordable housing, and budgeting, saving money. So that is the goals for a lot of our families. They're the same across the board. So we just kind of look at case-by-case basis, because some of our families come in with employment already.
Okay.
About 70% of the homeless population and those that we serve, they're working.
Right.
They just don't make enough to keep their heads above water. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand, especially when we hear these stereotypes about the homeless population is lazy, or they all have drug addictions, or they're severely and persistently mentally ill. That is not the case for the vast majority. Many of them are working minimum wage jobs, single parent families with multiple children. And I know it's a struggle, even if you make a good income many times, to afford daycare and diaper and formula and food and utilities and all of those things that you need to have to make a household function. And so I believe really strongly, I know Dawn does too, that given the right set of circumstances, this could happen to any one of us. No one is immune from this. We've served stay-at-home moms that suddenly found themselves single and able to support their kids. We've brought in moms that have worked 2 and 3 jobs sometimes, trying to make ends meet. And so being lazy is definitely the exception rather than the rule. These are folks that are really working hard and just need a little boost and some support to kind of get things under control. And many times they've never had the opportunity or the support to do that. Any one of us here probably would have a family member or someone from church or a coworker that would bring us in before we ever truly found ourselves sleeping in our car with our kids.
Right.
But for some of our families, they just don't have that support. And so that's where we step in as staff, but also as the awesome volunteers at these churches, that we're going to be your friends and your family and your support system and your cheerleader, and really rally around you to help you figure this out. And help you get to that place where you want to be. And we all want to be good parents and care for our kiddos, and feel good and confident about what we're providing. And so that's where Family Promise is unique in trying to step in that gap. And we don't do it to them or for them. We just kind of walk alongside them.
Cool. And I'm just curious, I'm sure it varies a lot, but is there kind of an average how long someone's in the program, or how long does it take to go through this process?
Yeah, so right now our average is about 72 days.
Okay.
Which is pretty darn good.
But it's, shorter than I would expect.
Yeah, because many times if you're coming in, you're needing to get your driver's license, and you're needing to apply for jobs, you're needing to find housing and daycare, figure out transportation, all of those different pieces that are at play to become sustainable. The Family Promise, the cool thing about it is that we don't accept federal funding. We rely strictly on donations and grants that we write, and we feel that that's important because those federal dollars come with some strings attached, and that HUD then dictates how you can serve families and how long you can serve them. And so right now their standard is a family should be moved through shelter within 20 to 30 days.
Oh, wow.
And so that is not a very long chunk of time to get all of those pieces figured out.
Right.
And so that is why Dawn and I are so passionate about Family Promise, because we both worked in other agencies and in social services for a long time. And what we see at other shelters or other programs many times is it's just slapping a Band-Aid on the problem. They have a safe place to sleep for 20 days, but nothing really has changed in their circumstances.
Right.
And so you see them trapped in this cycle of homelessness where they just come back through those shelters over and over again because they never have any time to catch their breath and really get things figured out. And so at Family Promise, we bring them in, we reevaluate how they're doing on their case plan every 30 days. And as long as they're continuing to work on those things and do what we've asked, we extend them another 30 days. And we just approach it that way so we can extend them and hang on to them until they really are at that sustainable independence level, where we know when they graduate, they're not just one car breakdown away from being homeless again. They're not one situation where they miss 3 days of work because they get the flu and then they can't make rent.
Right.
We want them to have that nest egg and that's sustainability and stability to really be successful.
It's an awesome program. So this is kind of a little off topic a little bit, but I know, like, for me and probably a lot of people watching, a lot of people in our churches, they probably have a heart for people who are in this situation, but they just are maybe, I don't know, uneducated about some of this, or they might see a homeless person and just not know what to do.
Right.
And if we come across someone, maybe it is kind of the stereotype of the guy with the sign at Walmart or whatever. So if we come across someone, whether it's a stranger on the side of the road, or if it's, one of our kids at school has a friend who's going through something like that, how should we react to these people? What can we do to help them? What would you recommend for us in those situations?
Well, I can tell you what I believe and how I handle it, and it's probably not the politically correct answer or something that would be endorsed by the city, but I just truly in my heart believe that we are here to be kind and look people in the eye and smile and let them know that you're glad that they're there. And so my take on the situation is always, if I have it to give, I'm usually handing it out. And I feel that, how they're using it, whether they're worthy of that is not my decision to make. That's between them and God. And I'm just glad and grateful and blessed that it's not me sitting there having to ask for money to buy food for my kids. And so, I don't know what Dawn's take is on that, and I know that's probably not a popular opinion, but I do strongly believe that sitting on a street corner begging for cash is nobody's lifelong dream. So
certainly.
One thing I would definitely say is that everyone is worthy of respect. They are adults. They're not children. They don't want your sympathy. if you can give them your empathy
Mhm.
and not sympathy, and then treat them with respect.
Good.
And at Family Promise, we do have wallet cards that we hand out for folks that are sort of in that conundrum of I don't know what to do, and there's this mom standing outside Walmart asking for money for diapers.
Yeah.
And so we have these cards that you can just keep with you in your purse or in your back pocket. And hey, here's a card. Why don't you call them and see if they can help? And even if we don't have room at that time, we are happy to talk with absolutely anybody.
Yeah.
Tell us about your situation. Let me see if I can help you problem solve or point you in the right direction. Because that's what we're there to do. We never want to tell anybody no, but maybe we're not the answer.
Mm-hmm. And I wish I could remember. I remember hearing a story from someone from here who had packed these little bags in their car, like their homeless kits, I think is what they called them, with some water bottles and a blanket and maybe a $5 or $10 gift card to McDonald's or whatever. Just having some of that stuff ready, so if you come across those people, you have something. So that's another question I think a lot of people have is what is helpful and what is only supporting or enabling them in a rough situation. So again, I'm probably not using the politically correct language, but where do you both see that line, and when are we helping and when are we actually not doing what's best for them?
Well, if we're talking about that within the realm of Family Promise, one of our big tenets there is accountability. And so if somebody is not willing to come in and work the problem and actually dig in and do the hard work that we're asking of them, it's probably not a good fit. And we're very direct and upfront about that and let them know if this isn't for you, that's okay. We'll help you find somewhere that is a good fit. But there are families on the waiting list that would love to have this opportunity.
Sure.
And so we try to be good stewards of our resources in that way. What are your thoughts on it, Dawn?
As far as like those homeless bags, I don't see a problem with that. I mean, because it does allows you to hand them something, instead of just cash if people are, leery of that. And it's kind of goes back to that kindness. I don't think that we're ever going to be faulted for being kind.
Yeah.
So doing something like that, I do not see a problem with it. As far as enabling, we do try really hard at Family Promise to make sure that we are not doing things for them. One of our big things and one of our taglines is we walk alongside them. I'm not making the calls for them. I'm giving them that to-do list themselves. So when they graduate, they have this sense of pride that they did it. I didn't do it.
Right.
They did it.
Yep.
And so I think, at the time they may not like us. They may not,
Because it's hard work.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Especially around transportation, it's so hard in Wichita, and our bus system is hard to navigate, and it's cumbersome and long. It takes a long time to get anywhere. But if we take them everywhere, how is that going to work when we're not here? So we always try to say, well, what would you do if we weren't here, and help them problem solve that way. So kind of along the enabling, we try not to do it. But a gift bag to someone on the street, I don't have a problem with that personally.
Yeah, that's great. That's one. Your program is just so great because it helps them temporarily, but it also gives them the skills to take care of themselves.
Yes.
And that's huge. That's awesome. So if someone's watching, again, hopefully they've heard us talk about it. We talk about Family Promise a lot, but if someone wants to get involved, what are kind of the steps? I know there's some training and there's some things you need people to stay overnight, but that's definitely not the only thing that you need. So what all are the needs and how can we help meet them?
So there's a lot of different ways to get plugged in, and we believe really strongly whatever gift or skill that you have to contribute, we can find a way to plug you in. And so if you want to get involved with your church during that host week, there's lots of different roles, which is one of the coolest things about Family Promise. If you want to drive a van, if you want to play a game of Uno, if you want to bring a pan of lasagna, if you want to do the laundry after the families leave for the week, if you want to help set up the cots before the families ever get there. There's lots of different ways. And one of the neatest things about Family Promise is it's a volunteer experience that you can have together as a family. We love it when families come and volunteer at the church because it really is about community and sitting down and eating a meal together and having that understanding and that opportunity to rub elbows and see that these families are no different than us. They have the same hopes and dreams and beliefs and wishes for their kids. And to sit down and let them eat a meal together, to let your kids play with their kids, to really kind of have that firsthand experience is one of the most powerful things, I think, to eliminating stereotypes. But if you want to get involved outside of the host church experience, we have our day house. We're very small staffed. I'm the only full-time employee.
Okay.
And so we've got volunteers there that are answering the phones, that are sorting our donations, that are taking families to job interviews when sometimes that falls outside of the bus line. Any number of things, really. We're in the process of renovating that day house that I talked about.
Yeah.
So we're going to have some workday projects coming up that don't require any special skills or tools, just cleaning and painting and getting that space ready. So we can get in there, and our goal is to be there before the cold weather hits. We want to be able to serve more families before those calls really start to ramp up. And it's just not possible to sleep in your car or at the park. Those families need a safe, warm place to be. So yeah, the Family Promise it's got a spot for everybody. And it doesn't function without everybody.
That's right.
We need people driving those vans and doing all of those different things, or that big wheel does not turn. We can't serve these families.
I think maybe you said earlier, when we hosted just last week, I think we did have over 50 people from First MB, and I think you said it takes about 50 people to do all of that. So yeah, a lot of hands are needed to make it happen.
It does. Yeah, definitely.
Well, we're kind of wrapping up on time here, but I wanted to maybe end. I know we've heard a couple stories of some recent graduates, but do you want to tell us about any people who've come through your program? Some of the stories from these people that you've got to know way better than we probably will. Tell us about some of these families that you've got to meet.
Well, you do get attached to them. And I know the churches get attached to them, but we see them every day. So we definitely get attached to them. And we've had kind of a good string of graduates here recently. And I had a couple of them together stop by the day house. And so to see them continuing to support each other outside of program, like, oh my gosh, I was so proud of them. Because, one of them had a car and one of them didn't, and they were taking each other to work. And they had built that relationship in program. And we kind of talked about the lack of support system. And what I always tell my families is that it's really hard to live together, but when Family Promise is working really well, you'll come out of here with a new support system. And so a couple of my graduates showed that to me, so I love that. And then the kids stopped by. We had a group, a mom and her kids came by the other day, and they were hugging everyone, and it just makes my heart full. So yeah, graduates are great, and it is hard to see them go, but that is our goal.
Yeah.
For them to move on, but it is hard sometimes. So.
But it was also, especially alongside the volunteers that are seeing some of these families and as the staff, we many times get these families just at the worst. They just have nowhere to turn. They're completely overwhelmed. Many times their self-confidence is just sort of in the gutter. They just don't feel worthy. They don't know where to turn, and they feel like, if I was intelligent, I would know how to figure this out. So walking alongside them, which we say over and over again, but really being a witness to that experience and that change as they get that job and they find that housing, and they've got the kids enrolled in school and the school bus is set up, and they've got that interview outfit. We had a mama that she had not had teeth for years because of dental care is expensive. And so when you're trying to keep a roof over your head, going to the dentist usually is, bottom of the line there. But she was able to get dentures through a dentist that we partnered with for free. Wow. And to see the way that she just blossomed and bloomed and would smile, it just warms your heart. And there's so many cool stories and so many cool people that we get to meet, and being there from the beginning all the way to that graduation party where they look out and see the volunteers and the staff, and we get to celebrate them, and then also see them move into housing. We help them get furniture and make sure that they have everything that they need and they're sitting in a good spot when they graduate. Really, that full circle experience, I think, is the neatest part of Family Promise, and just it's what keeps us going every day. So.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm sure it is pretty incredible to see the full transformation for some of these people. So that's very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, as we're almost done here, if people are watching and then maybe they want to help, if they want to learn more, where's the best place for them to get in touch with you, or just to visit your website? What's the best next step?
Yeah, so follow us on Facebook. That is a great way to kind of see what's happening. We give you updates about the new J House or when a graduation party is coming up, or if we have a need for specific volunteers or donations. Call the day house if you want to get involved, and we can get you connected with a volunteer training. That is one of our requirements, is that all volunteers have to go through about a 1 hour training before they would have interaction with families, just so they understand the experience. And you can always stop by. It's a little hit or miss on whether we're there or available, but we love to give tours of the day house, and we're going to be enjoying doing that with our new space too. But
Cool.
yeah, holler at
And
us.
we have a good website too.
We
that
do.
You could
Yeah.
look. And then our gala is
Yes.
coming up.
Yes, thank you. The gala is November 14th. That's our biggest fundraiser of the year, and it's going to be at the
Okay.
Boathouse this year. It's going to be really cool, I think.
Okay,
And so
awesome.
come and join us. Hear all about like our exciting program expansion things that we're working on for the end of this year and next, but also to celebrate all of the accomplishments and how far we've come since 2016 when we opened our doors. We would love to have everybody there together to really, I don't know, celebrate all that we've done and where we're going.
Yeah.
So
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. And if you are part of the First and Be family watching today, we've got a lot of information on our website. And I know we have actually a specific email list that goes out whenever we're hosting, or if we have a specific need when families are coming to our building. So if you're a First and Be are watching, if you go to firstbechurch.org/subscribe, I'll put the link in the comments here. You can subscribe for that email, and we'll be sure to let you know when we're hosting and if there are specific needs that we have in our world as well. So, okay, 30 minutes is up. Anything we want to wrap up with? Did I miss anything you want to be sure we hit today?
I think you covered it.
Okay,
Yeah, thank
awesome.
you.
Well, thank you both for being here. Appreciate you joining us, and thank you for watching. And I encourage you, especially if some of these stories are kind of tugging at your heart a little bit, to consider volunteering or donating somehow to Family Promise. Keep an eye on our website and Facebook and our email bulletin, and we'll keep you posted with needs that we might have. And yeah, it's a great ministry. We're so glad that we get to be a part of it. So thanks to both of you for all the great work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye.